Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, it's me, your host, Fearless Floyd, and today is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. I'm very proud to present my next guest. He's a longtime friend. We met in Anna von Reich's Federation of States, Texas State Assembly. He was the recording secretary, papered me up to join the assembly, and was part of the group that decided we were in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person, and we all bailed. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know, but Jason was a best-selling author, paranormalist, ghost hunter, and a whole bunch of other things that he's a very remarkable, talented individual. Also, a genuine rock star. Yes, he used to be the frontman, lead singer for a band out of Austin, Texas called Shadow Ministry. And he left them, I don't know, about a year ago and moved back up to Connecticut. And I don't know if he's doing anything in the music business now. I know he's been dedicated to presenting his event. He's already done one, Defeating the Demoniacal, and he's back with another one coming up in October. I participated in, well, I didn't participate. I watched the first broadcast that he did, very revealing. His guests, rock solid, just as you would expect coming from my show, my guests, my hosts. And without further ado, I want to bring Jason on, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself and how he evolved, tell you about his book, his experiences with his mentors in the paranormal venue, all the way up to what he's doing today with his new ventures, Defeating the Demoniacal. And with that, Jason, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to see you. You're looking good.
Thank you, sir. You too,
always,
as well.
Always rock star yourself. So, hey, I'm happy to be on the show again. I think this is my second time, and it's perfect timing because I get to talk about my epic seminar coming up on October 20th called Defeating the Demonic. And I have incredible stars who are my guest speakers. Archbishop Ronald File Enright. He runs the Sacred Order of St. Michael in California. He has 1,000 exorcists under his jurisdiction. He has been a Catholic priest for 46 years, and his reason for being here on this earth is this epic battle we're experiencing between the forces of light and darkness and evil and good. And it's real, and these people are the last line of defense when it comes down to paranormal groups sticking their noses in places they shouldn't, and people using Ouija boards and using invocation and evocation to try to actually open these doorways to the psyche and invite these forces into their lives. They need free will permission, just like the angelic and the guides need permission. They're waiting to help us, just like the demons are waiting to destroy us. And it's real. And I've been at it for 33 years now, and we'll get into that too. But Archbishop Ronald File Enright, Reverend Bill Bean, the spiritual warrior, the man is a powerhouse. And I've worked with him on a case in upstate New York. The man is incredible and articulate, and he just downloads this information to present to people. He knows it all. But amazing man, amazing to be in his presence. And I have two of the stars from last year's show can't make it this year. Archbishop James Cloud and Bishop James Long. They both have prior commitments. So I'm going to show their video clips from last year because I had the whole thing live streamed and recorded, which is great because they get to preserve that information. And they were, pivotal members of this initial event that took place last year in July. So it's only right to be able to present their material. And it's brief. It's just video clips and so forth. But being in the collective presence of these people is just incredible. They stand against these dark forces when, others would run away and for fear of their lives in many cases. And I have a couple extra guests this year. I have Reverend Dan Todd. He's also a member of Archbishop Enright's Sacred Order of St. Michael organization. And he was a paranormal investigator, like the thousands of them out there. And he, like so many, met resistance from the church when he actually came upon a genuinely active case involving demonic spirits. And they refused to get involved. They were unwilling or unable to. So he took it upon himself to become ordained himself and said, look, if I'm not going to get help from the very church that I belong to for all these decades, then I'm going to go and make a presence for myself and make sure that I'm able to help these people through the power of God always. It's never Jason McLeod or Bill Bean or Ron Enright or any of these things. It's always the power of God that's bringing this information and the power to expel these forces always. And you're inviting great attacks on yourself if you think otherwise. We're not, we're powerful beings, but when you're dealing with this stuff, this is the extreme of the extreme. I have Mercedes Lucky Benedict, and she's actually, she was featured in the Dead Files. Her properties really has bizarre activity going on out there in Arizona. And we're showing her part of her new release that's coming out called Sacred Lands, Arizona. And she's actually going to be a guest speaker too, because she actually takes the incoming calls from Ron Enright's organization, Sacred Order of St. Michael, when people are seeking help on cases that they need help with. So she's going to be able to relay that information, which is really great. Super nice gal. And I have Bishop Joshua Sparks. He's an amazing man himself. We're going to be discussing amazing seminar topics. So last year it was only 4.5 hours long. This year it's a 13-hour mega event starting at doors open at 8:30. The merchandise tables open at that time because a lot of us have books out, including Bill Bean and Archbishop Enright and other materials and so forth, all for protection purposes and things. Basically to help people understand these things better. And then the event starts at 9:30. We're going to go straight through till lunchtime, have a lunch break, and start the second session, which is going to go through to dinner time around 5:15. And then we have a VIP exclusive dinner right next door across the street for those of you that are in the area that want to fly in for this mega 13-hour event. We have an authentic Italian dinner at the Trattoria Avucella next door. Rented out the whole restaurant for the evening dinner for 2 hours, meet and greet afterwards. You could actually spend time with all the guest speakers. And then we pick up a second session right across the back at the theater, which is the most intense aspect. And that's really Bishop Enright wanted me to put a warning out for people saying, don't bring young kids to this, especially to this second part, because we're showing real exorcisms, real voices, disembodied voices coming from the possessed, voices coming out of thin air around the possessed, which is called disembodied voices, and amazing stories and recounts, and where they're going into graphic details, slideshows showing the incredible material, all the incredible activity that takes place, and the absolutely horrific activity once an exorcism begins, which is through religious provocation, through the recitation of prayer. And the purpose of the event is not to terrify anybody, but to let them know we are involved in this spiritual battle, whether they know it or not. These things are operating beyond human perception. We can only see visible light, which is 1% of everything around us. So this stuff is operating unseen on the sidelines. And these forces weave their way into our lives. There's an incredible number of ways, but it can teach you how to stand up for yourself, how to put up your spiritual defenses, how to understand when something's taking hold or has infested your home, like a flea infests your home. These forces infest your home because they don't belong there. And the associated feelings of dread and anxiety and uncontrolled anger that comes out of nowhere is the primary sign. And that's, when you start to notice, hey, something's wrong here, and then get into prayer and protection and so forth and what they do to deliver people from these dark spirits. And it's a timely event because it takes place just 11 days before Halloween. And I can't think of anything bigger or better anywhere. I've assembled this incredible group of clergy who, they're the warriors, man. They're the ones that put themselves on the line. Their physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health and wellness on the line, their financial wellness on the line, because these forces do not fight fair. They attack you, in devious ways, and they're always trying to disrupt the things and disrupt the event from even taking place. Last year, we were actually surprised that it went off without a hitch by and large, because they can mess with electronics and they can cause problems and so forth. So people may say, oh my God, this is a bunch of bull and this doesn't really happen. It happens, and like Bill Bean says, I've lived it, and like Bishop Long says, none of us are exaggerating this stuff. And Bishop Long is an amazing friend of mine. I met him at my first convention ever back in 2012 and gave him a copy of my book, Dark Siege: A Connecticut Family's Nightmare. I just self-published it. And because I wanted to maintain the integrity of this case, because I had seen so many cases get destroyed or twisted or inverted or altered by Hollywood and the publishing houses because they have a formula. And the integrity of the cases is altered. So I self-pubbed, and he read my book from cover to cover, and he says he's been nothing but supportive. And in my book's required reading for his demonology course, plugs them all the time. He says he's read very few books that have given him goosebumps like mine did, because it brought back the memories of all the exorcisms that he's conducted throughout the years. 30 documented exorcisms on validly possessed individuals. So Bishop Enright runs the Sacred Order of St. Michael, and there's a process involved with determining through mental health evaluations that, to screen everything out to make sure that it's not a mental health issue, that it's genuine possession. And of course, there's incredible activity and phenomenon that takes place when someone is genuinely possessed. And we go over all of those things as well. So, man, I know I'm rambling on and on, but there's so much information to convey. And,
No, wow. Okay. That was kind of introduction to your event coming up.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into this with Ed and Lorraine Warren and your whole thing up there in the great Northeast, and how you've evolved up to today to produce your events.
Okay. I was born and raised in Connecticut, and I'd always had an interest in ghost phenomenon and spirits and mythology and so forth. So I spent thousands of hours in the libraries, both at school and at town libraries and so forth, and middle school especially. In fact, my homeroom teacher, he was my science teacher as well. He says when the mind catches up with the body, because I was 6 feet tall when I was 11, it'll be awesome, because I spent so much time in the library and everybody else is off, goofing around. But my mind, like my friend Bill Bean says, my mind was a sponge at that point. But anyway, I had studied all this phenomena. The thing that really changed my life was when I read Dr. Raymond Moody's near-death experience book, Life After Life. He was the most famous near-death regression therapist there is, a psychiatrist or psychologist. And he wrote a book, his first release, which is an international #1 bestseller, about near-death experiences and what happens when our conscious awareness vacates the physical body, when the body has had a catastrophe and it's essentially died. The body essentially died and kicks the spirit or the consciousness out of the body. And that blew me away, because all of these cases from all over the world, and it wasn't just Dr. Moody, but from all these regression therapists and all these people who had came forward saying that they left their body, they experienced an expansion in awareness like they couldn't even describe. Now, like I said earlier, this is the most important aspect to understand, is that we can only see visible light in these bodies. That's why it's called visible light, which is a tiny, tiny band of frequencies, less than 1% of everything around us. Keep that in mind. We can see 1% of everything that's really around us. We can't see radio signals or Wi-Fi signals or television signals and stations and so forth when there's hundreds of them around us simultaneously at all times. But when we turn that knob to tune into that one station, we get that station crystal clear, and everything else fades out into white noise and so forth. So when people have out-of-body experiences, they're able to perceive colors and hear sounds and music and interact with geometric patterns and shapes and sacred geometry and interaction with creatures and beings and stuff they can't even put into context when they come back into their bodies. They can't describe it because there's no color that exists in the small little spectrum of colors that we can see. They have experiences that nobody will believe because there's just no frame of reference. And that blew me away. And it was study after study after study. And then Ed came involved in a book. I found a book called The Unquiet Dead by Dr. Edith Fiore. And she was actually a colleague of Raymond Moody, Dr. Raymond Moody's, but she stumbled upon a phenomenon called human spirit cohabitation, quite by accident. And this is so very important, because to understand demonic possession, you have to understand human spirit cohabitation. So the gist of it is that a single dose of anesthesia in the hospital, even when you're a little boy getting your tonsils out like I had, single drink, a single recreational drug, they're all gateways. They're all opening yourself up, making your auric field porous to allow, in some instances, these discarnate intelligences or the soul of somebody who's left their body behind when the body dies, because we don't die, the body dies. Our consciousness moves on, but it allows this consciousness to actually move inside their body and vie for control. And it sounds bizarre, but I stumbled upon it. It was the first case I read. Was a young man turned 21. He went to the bar, sat there, went by himself for his 21st birthday, and he said, had the idea in his head. He said, I want to have an old timer's drink. And the bartender, like something my great grandfather would have had or something. And the bartender said, that's weird. And he made him a drink. I don't know what it was, but he had one and several and went home, made it home safely, thankfully, and woke up in the morning completely a different person. He had aches and pains in his back. His eyesight was diminished. He was grouchy and irritable. He felt stiff, cranky, crotchety. He lived with his parents at the time still and requested something for breakfast that he'd never asked for in his life. And he had an aversion to things that he would normally desire. Personalities changed right before her eyes. And she's like, what in the world is happening to my son? And she took him to Dr. Edith Fiore at the time, who was a psychiatrist and also a hypnotic regression therapist who put him under hypnosis. But she found that she actually also hypnotized the spirit of the old man that had been lurking in the bar, that put the thought into his mind in the first place, have this drink, because that's what he wanted, right? He got to have that drink because he was now operating in a body. And now that he found his way into the body after the drink, however that happened, it's very, very common, apparently. You can have up to 50 or more. There's an innumerable number of souls or spirits that are actually cohabitating in the same body, is where we get multiple personalities, disorders, right? Split personalities, when one comes forward and the other fades. So she discussed with this elderly man that he's interfering with the life experience of the young man whose body he was supposed to be using exclusively. And the man said, I'm not dead. What are you talking about? And he was actually having a conversation, because you're very much alive. You're more alive in your spirit body outside of your limited physical body, because of the connection is so much greater. You feel more wonderful and more alive, free of all the pain, right? Any of the limitations you've had in a physical body, especially if it's an elderly body, you're free of any of those things. You don't need to use the bathroom. You don't need to take a shower. You don't need to sleep, because your body is what needs sleep. Your soul doesn't need sleep. And it doesn't hang around when the body sleeps. It goes off into the different dimensions and different multiple realities that we have access to outside of the body. We're really trapped inside a meat locker inside this body, and it's very limited. And we're blind as a bat, right? So that expanded my awareness in a huge way.
How much of that is deliberate by our controllers?
Well, think about this. Think about how they promote rampant alcohol use. And they make it, they just promote it. And it's called spirits for a reason, right? And it's the spirit of Al-Kuhl, A-U-K-U-H-L, which is the demonic spirit from Egypt, right? And it is a flesh-eating demon, as Bill Bean would say, right? The same with the spirit of pharmakeia, right? Which is sorcery, which is drug use, right? Drugs and alcohol. And that's one of the big seminars segments we're going to have, called the evil elixirs, right? Which allow your fields to break down. It allows these spirits to take control of the body. There's also the spirit of Jezebel, right? It's the Jezebel spirit. It's the demonic spirit of lust, of manipulation and seduction and control. And you think about, Floyd, and maybe a lot of your audiences does too, about what the controllers do to manipulate people and to blackmail them through what? Their activities that they force them to participate in and record, right? Sexual exploits and things like that. They always use that against somebody. And when they turn on the establishment, they expose them through all these things that they orchestrated in the first place. So a normal human being, a normal person, is a loving, kind, compassionate individual. they could become cohabitated by somebody and be influenced to commit acts, to say things, to do things that they would never otherwise do. And it's the other spirit that's within them. And it could even be a very negative earthbound human spirit, but it can also be a demonic spirit. It could be an elemental spirit. There's all kinds of thought forms out there that we can pick up, right? But when you go into these places like bars and brothels and bathhouses and different clubs and establishments that are not cleared energetically, I know this because I'm a pranic healing level 1. My teacher, Master Stephen Coe, and Bruni, my instructor, are clearing stuff all the time, cords and connections and elementals and things that we pick up. So if you see yourself in a bubble, visualize yourself inside a clear bubble, right? It's your auric field and it's your force field, and you go into a dirty place, just like your windshield gets grimy and gets bugs on it and gets gross, right? And you have to use your windshield wipers, but you really need a good deep cleaning. So you take your car to the car wash. Nobody gets their car washed with regard to their auric field, and most people don't even know it exists, but it's very real. And we pick up this stuff, and you get worn down and saturated with all this energy that you have, that's just, doing all kinds of awful things to your personality, to your body, to your energy flow, right? And you need to have it cleared off. And that's what pranic healing is all about. And it works, and it's amazing. I've had it done 24 times probably. And the difference is night and day. Like, whew, wow, I feel like I've just gone through the car wash. I feel great. Now being a lead vocalist on stage in a lot of these metal clubs, as I done for a while, and always feeling completely wiped out the next day for no reason, is because I'm up there and everybody's watching me and they're courting and connecting to me, and it drains the energy, right? Being up there on stage, conducting lectures at all these paranormal conventions and horror conventions and pop culture and Comic Cons, same thing. You're connecting in a certain way where people are, latching on, and it drains the energy. And you have to sweep all those cords away and, in a loving way, and send all those things away. But it's real, and it's stuff. All this stuff is intangible. And if you really want to understand reality, just like Nikola Tesla said, is if you really want to understand reality, you have to think in terms of frequency and vibration. Everything is frequency and vibration, everything. Right. And our natural state is a loving frequency, which is a very high frequency. The highest frequency is heart-centered compassion, right? Mm-hmm. A loving in connection with everything and everyone, realizing we're all individuations of the one source. We're cells in the body. We're cells in the body of source. We're fish in the ocean, right? The ocean being the creator of all that is creation, right? It's not a personality, a him and a her, and all this stuff. It's creation itself that we're all a part of, and we can never be separate from it. And the death of the physical body is a release from the madhouse, as far as I'm concerned. And spiritualists all over the world, Indian chiefs said the spirit world is so far superior to the physical world that they're astounded about people just hang on, day after day after day, just to get that next meal, or when they're in agonizing pain, when it's time for the body to shut down, or for the consciousness to be released to go on to its next phase, that's a natural situation, but back to spirits, right? You're talking about this.
Let me cut you in right there. Do you know what the distillers call the portion of their alcohol that evaporates while it's curing?
Tell me.
The angel share.
Ah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I watched the thing on Jack Daniels, and that's what they call that, where the evaporation.
Huh.
Yeah. And when you brought that up, I was like, oh, well, okay.
See, Floyd is a fountain of knowledge himself. So, that's really, I'm going to bring that up to Bill Bean, because he might find that he might know it, because the guy knows a lot. But right. Thank you for that information.
Yeah, you're welcome. And also, Jason talked about being in these nightclubs, especially rock clubs, heavy metal, industrial, whatever they want to do. I work in that industry, as you know, as a professional stagehand and rigger. So I do those too. The big shows that come through here, like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, some of the other ones in the Toyota Center, I don't do big shows like that anymore, because they're satanic ritual ceremonies. So yeah, I don't want to participate in them. I do all the small club stuff. But Jason, when you said that, when I'm up on stage, I'm attracting all this energy, whether it's negative or positive from the audience, that they're focusing on you.
It's all positive.
Yeah, hopefully. But what people don't understand, when Jason performed for Shadow Ministry, he used props. He also changed and did a costume change in between specific songs. So he is the focus of the whole show, even though there's a keyboardist, a bass player, and a guitarist and drummer, right?
Sure.
Yeah, they're focused on Jason because not only is Jason the front man, Jason is 6'8",
6'7".
6'7". Well, when you're on stage, you look 6'10". So
yeah,
he's a very, very large man. So he is the center of attention. So that's what he's talking about, how all that energy gets directed to him. Now I understand, and when I go see some of these bands and I'm looking at their set lists that they've been playing for the last 3 months, 6 months, and they're playing the same songs over and over and over and over and over and over every night. I mean, eventually that's got to wear on you, especially in all this negative environment with the alcohol, the drugs, free sex. It's just, eventually it overwhelms you. That's what happened to Motley Crue. They were just a bunch of roughabouts and, got instant fame and had access to unlimited money. And yeah, they just went berserk. So I totally understand that and get that. So do you do any type of pre-performance rituals or ceremonies or meditation or protection prayers or anything like that before you do go perform in those?
It's been a while. We
Yeah.
broke up about 1.5 years ago because I wanted to focus on my books and build my brand. And we had a phenomenal band. There's a lot of ego involved and lots of negativity that I just didn't feel supported, but I would, whenever I thought to do that, I didn't do it diligently. No. But I know that first thing I would do when I got home is just sit in a giant bath of sea salt, because that just gets rid of negative energies really well. But yeah, I was just wasted the next day. So I couldn't believe how exhausted I was. And it's not, it's not because because I was older, but I think everybody felt tired, but it's just the way it goes, and I do these conventions, 3-day shows, conventions, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, which is a long time, sitting there for 10, 12 hours a day, interacting with everybody, talking to everybody, trying to, sell my books and so forth, which is doing really well. I make a lot of connections, and I always meet new people and new fans and new readers and bump into old friends, but it's always this energetic exchange, and it's wonderful, but it's, you're right. I should practice more stuff, but I also get cleared every 2 weeks or so after, especially after I'm doing these shows, because, having somebody else take a look and take care of that, my pranic healing teacher, it's amazing. I'm telling you, if you really want to have an amazing clearing, go find a pranic, Pranic healer, who's, got all the different levels of that, and they'll pull stuff out of you. So elementals, right? I watched Stephen Coe, who's now running the entire organization. He's in California, but he was in Austin. Work on a man who I knew was wheelchair bound, right? And the man was no longer wheelchair bound after he pulled out these spirits from this man's body, right? Elementals, right? And I've seen it, right? So addictions, let's get into addictions. So you have somebody who cannot quit smoking no matter how much they want to quit smoking, right? Because there's another intelligence there that's saying you're not quitting smoking, right? Whether that's a human spirit cohabitating them, which is likely, or then it's the thought form that's created, the constant desire, repeated desire for having a cigarette. It's a cycle that you cannot get out of your mind. And the more you think about it and dwell upon it, and the same thing goes for having a chocolate bar, same thing goes for having a drink, for having sex, whatever. If you're constantly focused on a single thing, you're creating through your own thoughts. We're powerful creative beings, this field of awareness that's called a thought form that actually can become conscious, and it can stay with you or it can go off. And then if it's this free floating thought form, right, little ball of energy, and collides with somebody who's got a break in their auric field, all of a sudden they become a raging alcoholic out of nowhere, or they have this incredible desire to eat chocolate. They don't know where it came from. That's not me. That's the telltale sign to know that you're co-possessed. That's not me. I wouldn't do such a thing, right? Where you say, look, I know who I am. I don't know what overcame me to think that thought, and then think about the people, who have run into the wrong people at the wrong time and commit a crime or do something else when they're under the influence of something, right? And then all of a sudden their life is ruined.
Guilty.
I know their life's ruined. And I don't know what overcame you. That wasn't like me. I would never do such a thing. And they're like, but it's true. And Dr. Fiore said that she thinks that every single schizophrenic, right, absent true psychosis, is cohabitated by one or more, could be dozens, could be hundreds of discarnate human spirits that are wanting to feel alive, right? They've got their victim, right, who's especially locked up in an asylum, but they can't escape, right? They've got control and they're still alive, and they get to, live out whatever they want to live out. And every single, she said, all these people having, optical delusions, right, are untrained mediums, and they're actually getting glimpses of the lower astral plane. They're untrained, and they don't know what's going on, but they're able to perceive these things, again, because we could see 1%. So for somebody who can see an entire different level to anybody else in the 1%, they would say, oh, this person's a lunatic and crazy, lock them up in a jail cell for the rest of their life, when they're actually seeing more that we should be able to see. Cats and dogs can see more than we can. So when the cat is hissing and runs into the couch, or the dog's barking feverishly into the corner because it's sensing something and trying to warn the human family that it's there to protect, you better pay attention, because this happens. And I give you example after example after example of how this stuff operates behind the scenes, and that affects people. We had an individual in our assembly, dear friend of mine, and he was also unaware that I was involved in the paranormal and ghosts and so forth. And he wanted to have lunch with me. So we sat down for lunch, and he said his daughter, there's something awful going on in her bedroom, and there's something that is taking control of her, and she's not the same. And here's how simple it is, right? I met a woman years ago when I reached out for help on a case I was doing in upstate New York, a genuine psychic that could see what's going on. And I met this incredible woman named Tracy, and she has been amazing, right? And I said, okay, you know what? Don't tell me anymore. I'm just going to text Tracy right here at dinner. Sitting with a friend, something awful's going on with his daughter. And she says, looking, right? How she does it, I don't know. But she says she can just go and follow the cord. She's connected to me, the cord, right? And I'm sitting across from my friend who's corded to me, and his cord goes all the way back to his house and is corded to his family. So she described that the daughter in the bedroom, there was this pit, like a hellhole in the carpet. And it's the same exact spot, after conferring with him, that the cat would avoid, right? Completely. Like it was like a something that you wouldn't go near. You walk around it. Anyway, overlaying this young lady was literally like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. Remember when, for those of you who've watched that, who've seen The Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf was asking Bilbo for the ring so he can keep it, in custody, and his voice changes, his face demeanor changes. He goes, "It's mine," right? Like that, right? That's what she saw overlaying this young girl. And she said, you can either go down that hole in peace, or you can go down it in pieces, right? And that's it. The seething rage that these beings have for everybody is just unbelievable. And down it went, and she dispatched it and closed the hole. And my friend went home, and he called me, and he says, I have my daughter back, right? She's smiling, and she's cleaning her room, and she's washing her car, right? That's how simple this stuff is. And something happened where something was invited into a room, probably through a Ouija board use or something, invocation, right? Invocation. That's where this pit or this doorway opened. In this case, it was this hole in the ground, in the carpet, through which this thing came. And I can give you story after story. Story after story after story, where the dogs freak out. They jump on top of the bed. They're freaked out. They're growling and hissing at the floor. I'll contact Tracy, take a look. I want to tell her what's going on. She says, my friend, his dogs are freaking out in his bedroom. It's ice cold in there. She describes this black, viscous, tarry goop all over the floor coming from this gaping ovoid in the corner of the bedroom, right on the corner of the wall, coming through out of this gaping hole into our dimension from somewhere, right?
Right.
Seals it up, boom, gone, gets rid of all the stuff. Instant relief. Instant. I don't even have to leave my house. I'll just call my friend, say, can you go and take care of this? And give her all the credit, of course, because she's the one that's doing it, but she doesn't want the credit. She knows that she's just an instrument of goodness, right? To help people through these horrific things. This is real, folks. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to hear horrific, mind-blowing situations where these exorcists are actually dealing with true inhuman diabolical forces that have never walked the earth in human form, that have seized control over people and require the solemn rite of exorcism, and the absolute madness that takes place during that. It's terrifying, but it's empowering to see how these men take care of it through the power of God Almighty, the greatest power there is to expel these evil interlopers that have woven their way into the lives of humanity. And like Bishop Cloud said, Archbishop Cloud, he says, why do they go after humans? Why are they so interested in human beings? It's because they can't hurt God. So they hurt the thing that God cares about the most, which is his children, which is anything that's living, in this world. He doesn't want to see anybody suffer, or consciousness doesn't want to see anybody suffer. We all have free will and non-violation and so forth, but it'll blow you away. So I put all this stuff together, and I keep getting back to the seminar because it's so important to me, because I bring all these people in together. This is like my life's work. The culmination of my life's work is bringing all these people together. And that's always been a strength of mine for some reason, is to bring people together, like I did with the assembly when I believed in that, right? I brought people together and I said, look, we're creating a community of like-minded people. And we just found out that the leader of that group was just not quite what we were aligned with, and we don't get into that. I don't like to bash people and so forth, but I know
it's not what we're here for.
And if everything is turning around with that, then that's great. But we just found a way that we just said, look, let's just go let's be in our, do things on our own, and be, responsible, freedom-loving people. Right.
So you were going into spirits before I interrupted you.
Oh man, which spirits?
I don't know. You're going into spirits, but if not, go into Ed and Lorraine.
Okay.
Warren.
Okay. Yeah. So I read The Demonologist. I read The Unquiet Dead, and I read read Life After Life, The Unquiet Dead, and then I stumbled upon The Demonologist as a senior in high school, and it was a book by Ed Warren and Gerard Brittle. And it was a compilation of cases, the most severe cases of demonic infestation, oppression, and possession that they've ever experienced. Are you still there, Floyd?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Okay, good. I read that as a senior in high school, and I was actually so terrified reading about the cases that were happening in this book. I made a crucifix out of popsicle sticks and Scotch tape, and I was prayed my guts out that night. But anyway, I put it back on the shelf. I said, even though I lived in Monroe, Connecticut as a boy for a couple of years, that's where they were from, only 30 minutes away. I said, it'd be easy enough to get a hold of them somehow, but it's not for me right now. I was only a senior in high school. I was starting college the next year. And 4 years later, I'm with my friend Lou in his car. He's a former Army combat medic with the rank of captain and a current high-ranking paramedic in the Norwalk, Connecticut EMS system. And we're in his car, big burly dude, tiny dude, big mustache, just a super guy. Nothing scared him. He's witnessed horrors as a medic and a paramedic. And we're listening to the radio, and it was about one of the Warrens' cases. And I turned to Lou after we listened about it, and I said, I told him I read The Demonologist, and I said, that'd be so cool to work with them. And he said, yeah, no kidding. And the next night, he called me and said, you aren't going to believe who just called me. Who? Ed Warren. I'm like, what? Ed was having heart issues. He called the chief of EMS to have a medic referral for their team. He recommended Lou, gave him Lou's phone number. Ed called him, invited him to their Monday night class in their home. And I said, you have to get me in there. It's time. Right. And that was the first, one of the first amazing synchronicities of my life that was just so obvious, not a coincidence, right? But I mean, what are the chances of listening to the Warrens case and the next night and declaring your intention that'd be so cool to work with them, and then getting a phone call the next night to orchestrate this whole thing? So he went to the class, he told Lorraine all about the synchronicity, and she nodded and said, okay, bring Jason next Monday night. And I got to go. And I walked in, a young man opened the doors, a friend of mine to this day, Drew Thompson, very talented psychic. And in the back is, you see Lorraine, the tall lady, gallant lady with a big telltale bun on her head. And she comes literally gliding over to me. Hi, Jason, I'm Lorraine Warren, honey. And she looks at me and she says, how strong is your faith, honey? Was the first question she asked. First one. And I instantly replied, I have immense faith. I believe that I and the Father are one, as are we all. We're all connected. We're all this fish in the sea, right? We're all the individuated aspects of the totality of the Creator. And she nodded and she asked, why do you want to get involved in work of this nature? And I said, I read the book, Demonologist, and I was terrified for the families, especially the little kids, they shouldn't have to suffer like that inside their own homes from these horrific things. And I want to help, right? And she asked, so it's a calling then? And I said, I believe it is. Well, welcome aboard. We went to, Ed walked in, I met him, and he was there going over the cases they were investigating, over the evidence that the investigators were providing for them. So they had a group of about 12 to 15 really, really serious people. And this is, mind you, back in 1990, right? Before cell phones, before the TV phenomena about all these paranormal shows, which wouldn't even exist without the Warrens. Nobody was taking selfies. Nobody was trying to do this to get on TV. We were genuinely interested in helping people and protect them from these nefarious beings that are trying to destroy their lives. And we went over the cases. Then they went over a new case that came to their attention involving a husband and wife. They bought a home with a newborn baby, and they were seeing an apparition of this woman walk through their room every night, walk down the hallway, stop in front of the baby's crib, scared out of its mind, pass through the baby's crib every night like clockwork. They assigned Lou and I to that case the next night. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? I just got here. And I was like, psych, I was like, all right, let's go. But I was like blown away. I was like, oh, talk about being just, all right, we're going to throw these newcomers at this new case that came on board, because it was just, she knew it was nothing dangerous. Lorraine's number one concern, which is something that really makes me feel so good inside. And when I think about it, is she was so concerned for the safety of the investigators, because we were all, putting ourselves in danger in many cases. And they only got personally involved in the really serious cases involving inhuman spirits, or when they suspected that was the case, they sent the rest of us on, and we would go with them, the people that they really trusted. If they're not drinking, they're not on drugs, they're of sound body and mind and spirit, right? Mm-hmm. She was absolutely insistent upon that. So that we're getting into that again, the spirits. This is all coming back, right? Don't drink, don't do drugs. If you're not feeling well, stay home, because you're putting everybody else at risk. So anyway, that's how it all began. And we went on that case. It was amazing. We had we all had our first amazing psychic experience, which was this bright blue flash of light that had appeared in the pitch black room, like lightning had gone off, right? And that's the same room I had the camcorder in. I borrowed my mom's VHS camcorder. And we all detected a very sickly sweet almond smell. And we have landscapers. And when we put the VHS tape into the tape player before we left for the evening, I was so excited that this bright blue flashlight was there in the first place, but was concerned that it'd be so bright we wouldn't even see where it originated from. There was nothing, no change in illumination whatsoever. Yet Lou and I and the husband and wife all saw it. We all stared at each other with our mouths hanging slack. Did you see that? Right? And so we brought the tape. Lou detected 3 different distinct heartbeats on that tape. And he literally went white as a ghost. He identified 3 different medical heartbeats. And we would have all missed it, but these were very, very faint. And now there was nobody in the bedroom when these heartbeats were detected, nor was the camcorder powerful enough to detect a heartbeat from within somebody's body, even if they're standing right next to it. So he was freaked out. And when I brought the tape back to the Warrens the next day, And we went over it at the class the next Monday. And she described that she was there, this spirit of this discarnate human spirit of a woman. And she wasn't going to give us the bright blue flash of light on the tape, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we all saw it, right? So if anybody can guess how that's possible, I'll let you know in a minute. But the tape was projected, the heartbeat was projected onto that electromagnetic tape as evidence, right? That scared Lou out of his mind. He was about 50% out the door at that point, and I was completely hooked. So back to the bright blue flash of light. We can only see 1%, right? So it's our pineal gland that is photosensitive. It has rods and cones. It's how we have full color dreams in a pitch black room with our eyes closed. It's how we see movies in our minds when we daydream. It's our interdimensional interface, right? And they all know it. You see the Sumerian birdmen with the pine cones of the Vatican. They all know that this is the gateway to the seed of the soul, right? Where we can perceive things outside of the normal 1%. We know who they are, don't want humanity to be awake, right? And to be able to perceive and know these things and pull information from the higher spiritual dimension. So they lock everybody down. They put fluoride in the water, right? Which calcifies the pineal gland, turns it into a stone instead of a jelly bean. So this light was broadcast into our third eyes collectively, enabling us all to see it clearly. But it wasn't on the tape. And it's how some people and not others will see UFO phenomenon. It's how group-wide interaction with UFO phenomena takes place. They're all able to perceive it at once because it's projected into the mind. And we know there's all kinds of technology that enables this to take place now too. But this was genuine and completely hooked me. And the thing that scared Lou out of his mind to the point where he wasn't going to continue at all is when we all went to Dudleytown in Cornwall, Connecticut, which is a cursed village. All that remains now are foundations. And the state police will arrest you if you go anywhere near it because people go missing. I think it's the foundation of the movie The Blair Witch Project, because people go in, they never come out. There's no insects, there's no animals, there's nothing. There's no birds. It's
dead zone.
Dead zone, but that's what happens when you have demonic presence. And yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, it scared him out of his mind, and he wouldn't continue after that. And again, I was hooked. I was like, oh, there's so much more that we don't know, that I want to be a part of. And that's where it all began, man. And that's where I was. The cool thing is that I was a college student at Sacred Heart University at the time. And I wrote a newspaper column for the university called Hauntings, chronicling my cases with the Warrens, because it was a Catholic university, and the students were enthralled. Some of the faculty had been to their lectures because the Warrens conducted college lectures. So they were like, "What's going on? Tell us what's going on." So I put it in these newspaper columns until I transferred out to Eastern Washington State University to get my bachelor's in English creative writing. And then I picked up that same column at Eastern, and then that opened a whole other chain of events out there for me as well. And it's all been one amazing experience after the other, one synchronicity after the other. And my purpose, ever since I read The Demonologist, was to compassionately deal with earthbound human spirits, especially after I read Dr. Edith Fiore's work, right? Because she deals with them compassionately, because they don't even know they're dead. In many cases, these earthbound spirits that have cohabitated a body, right? You've had your life. Do you remember the time when you found yourself outside of your body? And you get them to think about it. Oh yeah, that was terrifying. My body was mangled, right? Or yeah, the building collapsed, or something. I fell off the bridge, or I got shot. And they make them remember that, and then they go. Then she has them look in the mirror and say, "Look in the mirror. Is this what you used to look like?" No, right? And you actually convince them in a very compassionate way that they're interfering with the lifetime of the person that's supposed to be using the body, right, for their lifetime. And they feel mortified about it. No, I never meant to cause any problems, unless they're truly vengeful. If it's somebody who was like murdered, or somebody that wants to get revenge on somebody, and it takes a lot to get them to leave. But often after a single hypnotic session, they'll be gone, right? Sometimes they retreat and hide, and there'll be others that come through and leave and so forth, because you can have hundreds of people living inside you. You don't even know it. And when you're free of all that stuff, right? Talk about like
hundreds of entities.
Yes.
Okay.
Humans.
Wow. That's insane.
And don't take my word for it. Dr. Edith Fiore, I have it right here. 1 second.
Oh, no, I believe you. I was locked up with a paranoid schizophrenic.
Paranoid schizophrenic, the unquiet dead. A psychologist treats spirit possession, right? Moved by the suffering of patients who came to her with seemingly incurable psychological and psychosomatic problems, noted psychologist Dr. Edith Fiore began to explore beyond the boundaries of traditional psychology and made a startling discovery. A significant number of her patients were suffering from spirit possession, a condition that no amount of orthodox treatment could cure. It's amazing.
Wow.
And that's what began my journey. I read about near-death experiences, and then I read about, okay, we vacate the body, we have a near-death experience. It's all wonderful. They all experience this love like you can't believe. You can't describe it. It's so incredibly powerful. And review of their life, and given the choice, do you want to come back or do you want to stay here? This place will always be here for you, meaning the higher spiritual plane. So the higher astral plane,
right?
You came here for a purpose. What was your purpose? Oh, I wanted to be I'm a musician and I wanted to open up for Arlo Guthrie, for instance, which is one thing that I remember. And the millisecond that they did, this will blow you away, right? So this young man was whitewater rafting. How much time do we have?
Much as you want, sir.
Okay. We'll go till midnight. Grab some coffee, people. So we'll go. I'm sorry about the noise back there. Don't
worry about it.
Okay. So 2 guys were whitewater rafting. The raft flipped. The one got thrown deeper into the water and pinned by the weight of the pressure of the waterfall on the riverbed. The other got flung free and swam to safety and was trying to frantically find his friend that was pinned underneath the waterfall. He realized he was going to die. He couldn't get out. He drew in a breath of water. He felt warmth and comfort and peace. Strangely enough, didn't feel any pain. Felt like his arms were contracting until he had no arms. His legs contracting until he had no legs. His head contracting until he had no head. And he was a ball of energy, right? Now, what do we see in all these photos but these balls of energy or ghost lights or orbs, right? Lorraine always called them ghost lights. This is what we are, is a packet of energy, a light, right? And he willed himself to rise up. Out of the water, and everything was scintillating. The colors he perceived were mind-blowing. He could hear perfectly out of the left ear that he had damaged in a firecracker explosion when he was like 6, right? So it was always like, you stick your finger inside your ear flap and you hear the echo and the resonation. Yeah. That's what he always had to deal with since he was 6 years old. Now it was completely clear. He could see in a 360-degree arc, right? He effortlessly moved over to the shoreline, right? Passed through a tree and was inside the tree and felt this incredible energy, like he had 100 arms and 1,000 fingers. And he's like, oh my God, what if I'm going to get trapped inside the tree? Like I've chosen this to be my eternal future, right? And he moved out of that. And then he said, oh my God, I'm still me, right? I'm still me and I'm conscious and I'm making jokes. And I'm like, I can see clearly, I can hear clearly, and I can think about what I'm seeing and hearing. And my body is beneath the water. And my friend's trying to find my body. And he's like, I'm okay, I'm up here. Again, he's vibrating outside of the 1% that his friend can perceive. And he goes through a rock, a big boulder, and he felt cold and clammy. He moved out of that immediately. Didn't feel right to him. And then he heard, you didn't even try, right? And he's like, oh, crap. And it was his wrestling coach who had passed over, right? Who had basically was scolding him for not even struggling enough to get out from underneath the pressure of the waterfall. And he's like, oh my God, I have to deal with my wrestling coach. And then he felt this incredible peace and love envelop him, like a warmth, like he was cradled in this field of energy that you can't even describe. The love and the compassion and the unbelievable love, right? And he, like everybody else who describes it, can only equate this to being God, the creator, right? And he said he was shown a line like a laser light, right? Going from one end of the spectrum as far away into infinity as possible, and as far as way into infinity, the opposite direction. And there was a hash mark. And he was told telepathically, here's where you are now. Here's where you came into this life, right? Here's where you are now. Here's where you planned to exit this lifetime, right? And what did you want to accomplish? And that's where he described he was a musician. He was a flute player, and he wanted to open up for Arlo Guthrie. He thought that would just be the greatest thing. And this field of awareness said, why do you look up to this man so well, so greatly? You know, you're all the same. You're all equally important and everything. And he was basically described to him that this place will always be for him, but he chose to come here to experience certain lessons and learn and evolve and grow. And this is what will happen if you choose to stay here. And here's the mind-blowing part. He was shown in a movie in his mind, or in like you're looking at a screen, the ambulance and his dead body being dragged out of the water and his weeping mother and the funeral and all this stuff that didn't happen yet. But he was shown it. This is what's going to happen if you choose to stay here. And he felt incredibly guilty, as many do. I can't leave my children. I can't leave my spouse. I have things to do. You know, I have things to accomplish. And the millisecond that he decided to go back, he was back in his body, right? And incredible pain because he felt the pressure of the water in his lungs. But he struggled. He got out and he made it to shore and he lived, right? And he ended up opening up for Arlo Guthrie. Is what the story is. Something. I don't know.
Playing the flute.
Apparently. Who knows?
Whoa, that's an achievement.
I have no idea. I'm just telling you, it was an amazing story. And there's hundreds and thousands of stories just like this. You know, and none of these. Well, let's hear it. If it's not too personal.
No. It's I live my life on YouTube. I'm transparent with all you guys. You know, I tell you that I used to be an alcoholic and raging drug addict, and I did everything to excess. As you know, if there was an ounce of blow on the table, we were doing that ounce of blow. Mm-hmm. We weren't going to do half and stop and go to sleep and wake up and do the other half next weekend. No, we're doing all of it. So we're at this after hours party, and there's probably, 8 of us there. And we're all on ecstasy, MDMA, wigging our balls off. And I don't know if you guys know what Medusa is, but Medusa comes in these aerosol cans. They're about this tall. They sell them in head shops or 24-hour newsstands. It's something similar to the amyl nitrate that you used to inhale in clubs to intensify your high. Medusa is an actual refrigerant line cleaner. So we're all doing it. We're spraying it on a little towel and inhaling it and catching that buzz and getting a little high and amplifying our ecstasy. So this guy comes in and he goes, "Oh man, Medusa." And we're like, "Okay, what's up?" And he's watching us spray it, and taking these little hits or spraying it on our collar. That was the thing we did at the club, put it on our collar and then get that high. So he's like, "Oh, y'all aren't doing Medusa." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean we're not doing it?" He goes, "Here, let me show y'all how to do it. Who wants to be first?" And I do.
go home or go large or go large or go home.
Yeah. Hey, I want to do it. What do you mean I'm not doing it right? There's another way. There's a better high. I can go further, whatever. So he goes and gets a towel out of the kitchen. I mean, he's flooding this thing. He goes, "Now put this over your mouth and inhale as large as you can, as many times as you can." And while I'm doing that, he's on the other side spraying it.
Wow.
Yes. I immediately, boom, blackout. I'm out. In my mind, I'm in a black darkness and I'm falling, just free falling, like a skydiver would fall, but it's just pure black. My feeling is, "Oh, dude, you just fucking died. But this is what it feels like to die." And I'm out like this. And all of a sudden, everybody's just looking at me. They don't know if I'm dead or not. I don't even know how long I was out. But I immediately jumped up and went, "Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!" And everybody's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? Because I think I had died and gone to heaven, and this is what heaven felt like. And I was like, oh my God, this just feels fantastic. And I woke up and everybody's staring at me going, what the fuck? And then the girl's house that we're in, her sister was asleep, ran out of there immediately. Who the fuck's yelling in my house and all this stuff? Y'all get out now. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, I mean, to the top of my lungs, I screamed, fuck yeah. And that's always been a joke. But yeah, I experienced that. I've done that several times. So let me ask you this. What's your opinion on CERN, Switzerland, and the Hadron Collider?
Well, they openly say, well, first of all, they have a statue of Shiva, the destroyer of worlds, out front. They performed a ritual, all in robes, right? Bizarre rituals with goat heads and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they're so blatantly obviously now, they don't care anymore, and they're just going to show us what they're trying to do. And from what I know about it, they're trying to open up dimensional portals, right? Even a portal to hell, right? And they don't know what's going to come through, but we'll take our chances, and it's like, thanks. Don't bother asking the rest of us, whether or not we'd like a portal opened into our reality. But stuff's coming through, right? So Bill Bean and I do an amazing seminar on the Mandela effect changes, right? Okay. And we surmise that's either these parallel realities that have been cracked open through CERN's Hadron Collider we've all been moved into, or the stuff that from that reality is bled through into ours and it's changed things in a subtle way, right? But often very dramatic ways. And his big concern, right, is the changes to the Bible, right? And he's so busy, he's doing deliverances all over the country, he drives, he doesn't fly. And he says, I don't have time for this. When somebody said, look, the Bible's changed, right? And he's like, of course it's not changed. What are you talking about? And he says, I'll put this to bed, right? So you open up a 150-year-old Bible from his grandmother's basement, right? And had like 6 others, right? And he, on a live podcast he does called Warrior Mode, he opened the Bibles up to all to the same section, and he went over the first alleged change that has happened to physical Bibles that have never left the possession. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Oh, boy, you get ready to go down the rabbit hole. I'm going to push you down the rabbit hole. Okay. King James Version of the Bible has changed hundreds of times, right? In a book, a physical book, even though nothing's truly physical, that has never left your house, that has been in a banana box in the attic after grandma passed, right? You wanted to keep her belongings, has physically changed, as if a force, a supernatural force, he says it's either the evil one, right? Satan, the devil, or it is a multi-dimensional shift. So things have changed. So I'm going to give you a classic example that everybody knows, right? And the blank shall lay down with the lamb. What's the blank?
The devil?
No, the lion.
Oh,
and the lion shall lay down with the lamb. It's one of the most talked about biblical passages there is. And I'm not a Bible expert or scholar. I can't even tell you where it is, right? Okay. Bill Bean knows exactly the page and the everything. I mean, it's amazing. Anyway, it now reads, the wolf shall lay down with the lamb. Now, people have crocheted artwork, and it's all the lion. The lion shall lay down with the lamb, right? There's no wolves in that part of the region of the world, right? They've drawn pictures of it. They've done their own artwork, which have not changed. Okay. Yet the wording in the Bible on the pages of the physical book that has never left your possession has changed. And every single copy of the King James Version has changed. There's hundreds of them. Most of all the changes are evil and tied in with the occult or witchcraft. Cauldron, betwixt, vexed, couch, muffler, bottle. Bottle used to be wineskin everywhere in the Bible. Womb is now matrix everywhere in the Bible. Muffler is in the Bible. Couch. Easter is listed in the Bible. There's no Easter ever listed in the Bible. It's always been Passover. And there's a quote, there's a passage where Jesus is saying, bring them to their knees and slay them before me. Something that the Son of God would never have said, right? He was all about turning the other cheek and that type of thing. Throwing your, who just did that? Oh, you did? Good.
Yeah.
The wolf shall also dwell with the lamb. There was no wolf. All right. That's Mandela effect change.
See at the bottom right here.
So things have changed, right? And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Talking about eating your children, eating your firstborn child, and drinking blood, and doing all these evil, awful things, right? It'll blow you away. Oh, unicorn has replaced the word oxen in like 50 different locations. A unicorn, a mythological unicorn, is now replaced the word oxen, right? It blows you away. So we're going to go over this whole thing. So we're saying it's either CERN that has opened up these parallel realities, or because nothing is physical. And Raven, is that a live chat from Raven?
Yes.
Comment. Oh, cool. Hey, Raven, how you doing? Yeah, I can't tell who's in here and who's not. It'll blow you away, right? And I found out about this through, I don't know where I found it, but I was at, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the children's story. We all know it, right? Yep. Something on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Come on,
Mirror,
Floyd.
mirror.
We all know it. We all know it's mirror, mirror.
Yeah.
Right. I was at a flea market, or sorry, not even a flea market. It was like it's like a tag sale, flea market type of thing, right here in this town that I'm living in. And there was a woman selling books, and she had an entire section on Anne Rice, and she had children's books. And I found Snow White, and I said, I'm going to see this with my own eyeballs in this book. And I opened it up when it was actually printed, 1977 or something like that, right? So I know it's nothing new or that something has been changed. And I opened the page, and right there, it says magic mirror on the wall, like it's a witchcraft thing. And I asked the lady, I said, I have to see this next one with my own two eyes too, because I was a fan of Anne Rice, and I read Interview with a Vampire. Right. And I said, do you have Interview? She said, oh yeah, it's right over here. And I go and look at it, and lo and behold, I like that term, Interview with the Vampire. Now, I've seen these Mandela effect changes with Anne Rice accepting her reward, talking very clearly, Interview with a Vampire. Right. Yep. It was just supposed to be a vampire. Now it's the vampire. So I showed that to this woman who was selling her own collection of her books. And I said, does something seem strange to you? She's like, what the? See that? Right. And I showed her the Snow White book. Right. And I talked about the Mandela effect and the Bible, and things are changing. And this woman, like right out of the freaking They Live movie, this woman whose back was turned to me this entire time turns around and goes, you are a deceiver. Right. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, what? Right. I'm explaining to you something really fishy is going on here. Right. And I showed her the book, and she's like, which church do you belong to? Yeah. She's like going crazy on me. Right. And I'm just like, look, lady. Right. I said that we are the living temple of the Holy Spirit. Right.
Yes.
We are the church. Right. In our heart. Anyway. So she was like literally like a reptilian looking freak that was like completely freaking out because they're being exposed. Something really sinister and nasty is happening here, right? So he and I are going to put on a Saturday night event here before our Sunday night event. And I'm calling it, let me show you what I'm calling it. I sent you the whole.
Is it going to be live? Are you going to broadcast it?
I don't know. It's going to be called, it's a separate event.
If you do it, I'll stream it. Or send me a recording. I'll post it.
1 second. Let me find it here. Oh, I sent it to somebody else. Sorry. But it's a great title that we're going to do. I'm going to read this just to read it to you and see what you think. See what your audience thinks. You're one of the first groups to even hear about it.
I need to have you on more often than just once every year or two. You're
okay.
Such a wealth of information. Yes.
Thank you. So it's called Reality Shifts, Unveiling Supernatural Alterations and Scriptural Discrepancies. Prepare to have your understanding of reality shaken as Reverend Bill Bean and Jason McLeod uncover shocking discrepancies and bizarre supernatural alterations to the very fabric of our existence. This eye-opening session will delve into mind-bending changes that challenge everything you thought you knew, revealing how reality may not be as stable as it seems. Attendees are strongly encouraged to bring their oldest King James Version Bibles for a live cross-referencing session that will leave you astonished. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, this seminar promises revelations that you'll have to see to believe. Don't miss this chance to witness the unimaginable. Your perception of reality will never be the same. So things have changed. That's just the tippity tip of the iceberg about all these stuff that has changed. Bible changes, reality shifts, a lot of stuff in movies, all the very famous taglines that we know are real are no longer so.
Absolutely.
Logos. Here's the weird thing. Logos. I've owned 3-4 Volkswagens. I used to sell Volkswagens. And I know that the Volkswagen symbol, the V and the W were always connected.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Now there's a great big gash between the bottom of the V and the top of the W that was never there, but it is in this reality. Right? I've traced my thumb over that thing 1,000 times, and I know there was never any gash in the middle. Right? And when people drew like hippie pictures of like the Vanagons and things like that, they drew the symbol as it is. You know, and I went into a Volkswagen dealership and found the oldest old timer mechanic that I could and revealed this to him. And with several of the salespeople, of course, thought I was out of my mind. And he was like, "You're right." So logos for corporations, right, have been altered in some cases. Yet the things like people crocheting the lion and the lamb, not crochet, needle pointing, right, or drawing something in a coloring book have not changed. So how does that happen? It's like the official reality provided for us has changed, but our interaction with that reality from our own perspective has not. And that's the great mystery. So is it related to CERN? That's where this whole thing began. We believe it is, but it's also all the changes are dark. There's nothing that's positive that's changed in any of this as far as the King James Bible. And it started in the King James only. And now it's translated into other versions in some instances. I'd love to know if the Nag Hammadi scriptures have been changed at all, but that's such a new discovery that there aren't a lot of people that can remember that have memorized it, right? So we're talking about people, and there's a quote in the Revelations about this too, is that people will thirst for the knowledge or the word of God, but they shall not find it. Meaning, we think that meaning is that the people that remember the scripture in a certain way can't prove that it was that certain way. So here's the biggest one. Now, it used to say, resist evil with every fiber of your existence, right? Or some such statement. Now it says, resist not evil, meaning don't resist evil. Look, Grandma, it says, look, resist not evil, right?
Right.
And I'm telling you, child, that's not what it ever said, right? So that's pretty nasty. Right. Yeah, I see. Whoa. It's crazy. But we're going to go into this stuff. And that's, again, the information that people are ignorant of simply because they've never been presented with it is incredible. So we are living in these amazing epic times. And again, the reason I keep going back to the entire Defeating the Demonic event, which, by the way, is going to be live streamed. So if you click on that on www.darksiege.com, I list the live stream poster. You just click on that. You can buy a live stream for $35. You have 13 hours of amazing content that's going to blow your freaking mind, right? And I really encourage people to share this information and share the graphic, share the website with people to get them to become at least aware of this event and, to plant that seed and to get them, even get a group together and have a freaking party on Sunday from Sunday morning till evening. And it's going to be something that nobody's ever presented before in this way. You saw the event last year, and that was 4 3/4 hours long, and we just cranked it.
Yes.
There was no pauses. We didn't have enough time to cover everything we wanted to cover, or the Q&A. So this year it's just going to be the most epic freaking event. I'm so stoked about it because I worked so hard on this. I'll give you some examples of the.
Now, I remember when you did the first event, you were talking about taking it on tour across the country.
Yeah, if
How's
we
that
get
evolving?
funding to do it. I'm doing this whole thing by myself, right? And last year, I flew all the speakers in and covered all expenses, and it was a huge undertaking. And I want to be able to take this on the road. There's got to be people out there that would donate to this type of thing, to see that we can get this message taken all over the world, and at least all over the state. So it's getting there,
So
I'm
you're
gonna give
you're actually looking for a potential sponsor for the tour or sponsors.
Oh my
for the
gosh,
tour.
yeah. I mean, we could do, to have all these incredible people here in the state, over even a 2-day period. We could really do 2 events. I thought about renting the theater to do something on Saturday as a matinee. That evening they have a concert, so I can only go until 1, but also doing something on Saturday night. And if we were able to hop in a what do they call those things? Sprinter van and go to New York City and go to Boston and go to Philly or whatever and do these everywhere one night after the other would be incredible. But so here's I'm going to give you some seminar titles and just let you know. So it starts off with Archbishop Ronald File Enright with Resonance of the Divine, and it's about the physical ringing of bells. And you'll find this interesting, Floyd, is because this practice, it was steeped in religion to ward off evil spirits, and the high vibrational frequencies disrupt the reptilians, right, and disrupt the demonic, but they're really one and the same. So they've removed these bells all over the world from all these churches on purpose, right? They don't ring them as much as they used to. So there's a reason for that. So he's going to get into that and how this disrupts the negative energies and causes these extra low vibrational beings to completely freak out, right?
That's why the bell towers are so high.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right. I'm doing the next segment called Unseen Influences, Human Spirit Cohabitation. Bishop Sparks goes on at 10:15 called Elixirs of Evil, the Spiritual Dangers of Drugs and Alcohol. Reverend Bill Bean at 10:35, Opening the Door to Demonic Infestation, exploring how seemingly innocuous activities such as the use of Ouija boards and seances, rituals and invocation and evocation can open portals that grant malevolent entities access into our homes and invite them into our lives, and additionally gain insight into how severe physical, mental, and sexual abuse and trauma can act as conduits for demonic infestation. Bishop Sparks goes on next with the Jezebel Deception, unmasking the most insidious demonic spirit. Bishop Long goes on after that via video from last year, Ouija boards, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the dangerous esoteric hobby of collecting haunted objects. I go on next called Dark Siege Unveiled, about my most terrifying case of my career. Bill Bean's on after that at 11:45 called From Darkness to Deliverance. Reverend Bill Bean's journey from victim to spiritual warrior. He endured horrific things as a child and became this living miracle to save people from the same demons that were attacking him and his family as a boy. Lunch break. Bill Bean's going to do an amazing prayer starting the second session. We have Archbishop Enright going on next called Chronicles of a Master Exorcist, 48 years on the front lines of spiritual warfare. And then Archbishop James McLeod via video from last year, Under the Shadow of Oppression, how demons manipulate our minds and bodies. So that's the extreme nature of cohabitation, which is now transient possession by demonic spirits, right? That's worse than the human spirit, cohabitation. Reverend Dan Todd is going to talk about a paranormal investigator's journey to ordination. I go on next called Shadows of the Warren Legacy, Encounters with the Demonic, about my experience with the Warrens and my first demonic cases. Then the Q&A for an hour. And then we're going to have an amazing exclusive meet and greet and dinner across the street at this wonderful, authentic Italian restaurant I've rented for the evening for 2 hours. Then while that's taking place, for people who don't want to leave the theater, but they want to enjoy 3 different special screenings on the large screen, I have The Life and Career of Jason McLeod, which is a documentary created by Mysterious World TV, which is really top notch. And then the second one is Shadows in the Desert, Sacred Land, Arizona. That's the case that Bill Bean helped resolve. So it's going to be a great, intersection there. And then the third is Beyond the Veil, Exploring the Dark Siege Locations and the Legacy of Ed and Lorraine Warren. That's the third free screening. And then the third session, which is called Into the Abyss, Confronting the Darkness, takes place next and last. It starts out with Archbishop Enright, called Marked by Darkness, the Symbols of Possession. You saw this last year. These demonic symbols associated with the spirit that's possessing the individual that appear in the strangest of places, inside the nostrils, under the fingernails, in the clefts of the buttocks, right? In places that you wouldn't believe. They're marked by these spirits. He's going to get into all of that. Bishop Dr. Sparks after that, called Armor of Faith, Confronting Satan and Waging Spiritual Warfare. How to equip yourself with the tools and knowledge to stand firm against the enemy. Archbishop Enright after that, and myself, called St. Michael's Shield, about how the 23rd Psalm was created and how powerful it is. And I talked about Master Stephen Coe earlier, the pranic healing teacher. He can see, he's psychic, and he says when somebody recites the 23rd Psalm, their aura explodes. That's how powerful this thing is, and shields them. Yeah. Then get into 940, Reverend Bill Bean and Mercedes Lucky Benedict about breaking curses and banishing shadows, about the case in Arizona. Then I have, to close it out, Bishop James Long from last year, called Voices from the Abyss, Demonic Spirit Voice Phenomenon, which is scary as hell. And then to close it out, Bishop James Long, Echoes of Heaven, the most beautiful angelic choir captured on tape. And this was an experience. It experienced the awe-inspiring phenomenon of the most beautiful electric voice phenomena ever recorded, an etheric choir of angelic voices captured inside a chapel in Israel long after the human choir had finished singing. In this captivating segment, you'll listen to hauntingly beautiful sounds that continue to inspire and mystify believers. Join us as we uncover the divine mystery behind this heavenly choir and its implications for our understanding of the spiritual realm. Then we have merch tables I have posters and printed programs and books for sale and all that stuff. But it's an amazing, 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 amazing event. And I had to include all this info because, I wanted to create something that was just epic.
Well, thank you. Congratulations for putting this together, man.
Thank you.
We got to get you out on the road.
I
Got
do.
to get you in more places to bring this to everybody. Just, man, you've covered so much ground. So let's talk about today's current circumstances, environment in the United States and the world. What you see that looking like. We have 61 days to the election, and we have, another 2.5 months until the inauguration. If there's going to be an election, what is that looking like on the spiritual realm to you, your eyes, your experience, your knowledge, your research, your conversations?
Well, you and I study a lot and we research a lot and we get involved in a lot of things that people find completely crazy. And I've read and studied so much, enough information. The problem with talking politics here is I'm going to piss off about a certain percentage of the people that don't fall into alignment with what I'm saying. And that's always not a good thing. But I'm also doing a disservice if I'm not talking about what I believe is going to happen. And I've read enough information to believe that we're witnessing nothing but a show. We're witnessing a movie take place and play out to wake as many people up as possible before to prevent absolute chaos and catastrophe that happens in our country. And I believe that there's the Brunson case, which is the Brunson brothers bringing a case to the Supreme Court saying that every bit of Congress and every bit of the Senate completely committed treason by not investigating potential election fraud. And there's so much evidence that it did take place and that they did nothing about it and they allowed it to take place, that the Brunson case could cause the Supreme Court to completely reverse the election, which would negate the 4 years that Biden has been in there and be given back to Trump. I know, sounds like fantasy, sounds like lunacy. Who knows if it's true? We'll see what happens. But that's the chatter that I get, in my circles, is that this whole thing is a complete farce, and it's just meant to wake everybody up. So they always said you have to show them the insanity that's taking place for people to really get it. You can't tell them about it. You have to see what's going on. And you see the insanity going on with the borders, and you see these violent uprisings in Dallas and Colorado now. The Venezuelan gangs in Colorado and the Hells Angels going up there to basically kick their ass. I don't know how that could be allowed to take place, and why isn't the military and the police getting involved to shut all this down? But the fact of the matter is that they let all these illegals in. They're giving them voter rights. They're giving them the ability to purchase firearms. They're trying to turn them into police officers, illegals,
Yep.
giving them, free healthcare, free hotel stays, free cars, free phones, free this, free that. Is it true? That's what the chatter is. I don't know anybody personally, so I can't say for sure, but the stories that are coming in are saying it's just outrageous lunacy, and it's completely unconstitutional to give a foreign national the ability to vote in our elections. But as we know, Floyd, what we studied under Anna and so forth is that we can't even vote in elections. We're not even voters, we're electors, and that it's illegal for people to vote for corporate elections, and that it's nothing but a corporation. I mean, we get into all that stuff too, that, it's mind-blowing stuff. All I know is that people are being arrested. Teachers are being arrested in Ireland for refusing to go along with gender pronoun usage in the schools. Literally arrested and thrown in cages because they're not going along with the lunacy that's taking place. Now let's look at Baphomet, the demon lord of deception or confusion. They're erecting statues of Baphomet, right? The goat-headed, goat-horned demon sitting on a throne with a little boy and a little girl on each side looking up affectionately at the demon, with the demon holding up the symbol, whatever it means, right? Esoteric symbology to invert and distort and switch everything around, where everything is inversion with the Satanists. It's inversion, it is distortion, and it's the reverse of everything that we know and believe that we're taught. And there's a statue that went up in Holland it was a beautiful Greco-Roman white marble statue of a man with a man bun breastfeeding a baby. I mean, it's insanity, right? Where they're pushing this on everybody, and they're trying to alter our perception and alter our minds and alter who we think we know we should be and who we are. Now, CERN and the jabby jab could be related to this, in that we're allowing this. It's an open invitation. It's making people vulnerable to these spirits. There's so many people who are saying they've lost their connection with the Creator, with God. They feel lost, disconnected, when they used to feel this incredible connection with the Christ consciousness and with God and so forth. Bill Bean's an expert at talking about this stuff, and I'm not really even doing it justice. And he doesn't care, right? He doesn't care who he offends. He's not here to preach a sermon, but he's here to preach the truth. And he says we are being completely systematically destroyed in this country, and that's one of the session topics that I wrote about earlier, is that everything that is good and normal and natural and wholesome is being completely reversed and turned into unnatural distortions of reality. And which party condones that? Which party supports that?
Well,
which
we
party?
already know who that is. You don't have to.
I know.
Hang on.
But like I said, I can't wait to see the chat. I probably lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. I'm not a politician. I do know that my favorite quote about politics is that from The Hunt for Red October, when it was the ambassador says, "I'm a politician, which I'm a liar and a cheat. And when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops." And wow, look at that. That's nice.
That's a 50-year span, because back in 74, if I'd been walking around in my apartments, this guy would pop out of the door, my parents would snatch me in there real quick. But in 2024, that's your babysitter.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, drag queen story hour and all the I mean, it just boggles my mind, you know. And what really boggles my mind is people putting their kids in these indoctrination centers in this day and age. If I had kids, which I don't, and I feel like I've missed out on a huge blessing not to have a kid to take with me to all these conventions because they'd be blown away, right? But I would never in a million years put anybody in a public school indoctrination system and have them be subjected to all this insanity, you know. I think, you know, people need to take charge of themselves and take charge of their health. There's one thing I do want to say, completely off topic, and everybody needs to understand this to put an end to the fear, the never-ending fear of the COVID and the mosquito-borne viruses and this and that. It's called chlorine dioxide, right? And you can go to the universalantidote.com and watch a 2-hour.
Be careful about that on YouTube here.
Okay. Never mind.
Well, no, it's allegedly this could possibly help you. We'll say that.
Yes. Well, it was a nurse, right? And she was a critical care nurse, and she said, I have to get to the bottom of this, right, and investigate this because these claims seem too good to be true. Well, she investigated it, and she made a documentary about it. And now, you know, it's loaded with testimonials and with people, an actual video of Red Cross going in there and disempowering certain mosquito-borne pathogens in the African jungles and so forth. You know which one I'm talking about? Begins with an M. Completely eliminating it within minutes, right? And it's a huge problem over there. It'll take care of anything. I've used it for decades myself, right? But it'll end the fear. And I'm not trying to sell anything, and I'm not trying to tell you, you know, to give you any medical advice, but I'm just telling you this is a nurse that actually created it. If you watch the video, you'll be blown away. You'll order it for yourself. You can even make it yourself, and it will end any hysteria about any future pandemics, you know, and things like that, because you can completely eradicate anything that it's a pathogen destroyer. It's water purification. We're made of water.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
You're cleaning the fish tank that is your body, right?
Right.
It's fascinating stuff. Anyway, I wanted to go there. So completely off topic, but I made it my mission to really tell everybody about it. And
let me address, you mentioned the Mandela effect, and I have a personal experience with that. One of our classmates that I graduated from high school with passed away, and unfortunately they didn't find her right off, and didn't have a funeral, so we went and had a wake afterwards with her daughters and family members in Kemah, Texas, where she lived. And after we did this event, we went to the Kemah Boardwalk, owned by Tillman Fertitta with Landry's, and went to the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. So I'm sitting next to one of the girls that I dated in high school, and you know, we're kind of cutting it up a little bit. And you know, she goes, "What you been up to?" And I start talking to her about all the stuff, doing my show and stuff. And I go, you know, hey, do you know anything about the Mandela effect? And she's like, "No, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, well, let me show you." And so I ran through, you know, several of them. Then I got to the Forrest Gump, "Life is like a box of chocolates." And I go, "Oh, hey, check this out." So I go to my Amazon Prime app, I open up the app, go to the trailer for Forrest Gump, and I play her the trailer. The trailer, "Life was like a box of chocolates." And I'm like, see that? She goes, "No, he said is, not was." And I'm like, "I know." And I go, "But you know what it is, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I don't even realize that I'm in the movie, The Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. Yeah. Until I get back and I'm looking, you know, she's off in another conversation. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh wow, I'm here. So I see quotes everywhere. So I'm looking for the quote, you know, like, where the fuck is the quote? You know, I'm looking. I look on the table behind us, it's empty. And I'm like, holy shit. I go, "Hey Terry, check this out." And I lift my plate life is like a box of chocolates.
Life is.
Life is like
Yeah.
right there on the table. And then I played it for her again. She's like, oh my God. I'm like,
yeah, that's a classic point, right? Mm-hmm. The official product is changed. What people had written down, in this case, pre-printed and put on the table or carved into it with a knife, is still there. Now, here's an interesting point I just thought about. Life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Well, what if CERN, they did this intentionally and they know precisely what we're going to get? Right? Now, here's the trippy part. And this is going to blow people away, right? And it's don't shoot the messenger, right? But I've watched plenty about this and I've read it. Is black helicopters. Is that have you heard of the I don't remember the exact name, but it's the exact name of the book, but it's Baron Trump.
Oh yeah. Baron Trump's adventures,
the time travel adventures.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, from 18 something.
Yeah,
late 1880s.
Right? And now this is going to get you going. So, should I preface this with somebody else? Jason Bashirs, who's right in Texas, runs Archaix, ARCHAIX, which is artificial intelligence research.
He's in the
amazing
woodland.
Man, amazing, right?
Yeah, he's in the woodlands.
I've been following him for a while, right? And he's convinced, and he proves mathematically, right? And he can debate anybody, and they all refuse to debate him, that we live in a hollow sphere. We live in a simulated environment. We are eternal, immortal spirits that are experiencing a simulation, and it looks real, and it smells real, and feels real, and tastes real, but it's not. And it's just a simulated world environment for whatever reason. And that when we come to the realization that we are an immortal living within the simulation, none of it matters anymore, because we know that it's all it's like the holodeck in Star Trek. So if they can alter things, that makes sense. That's the only reason this Mandela effect makes sense, is if we are in a computer generated simulation and the code is changing from the actual simulation, not what our immortal consciousness remembers experiencing within the simulation, right? We remember it. Life is like a box of chocolates. We remember Field of Dreams. If we build it, they will come.
Right.
Now it's he will come. Oh. Interview with a vampire, the vampire. Curious George with a tail, without a tail. Right. Darth Vader, Luke, I am your father, or no, I am your father, which is the one I remember. Right. All these things are changing, but it's the code in the simulation that we're experiencing has changed, not our immortal consciousness, which is eternal. We'll always remember what we experienced. I remember rubbing my thumb on the Volkswagen symbol thousands of times, driving all the way across the country. I know there was never a gash in between. Right. I know it because it's my experience within the simulation. So none of this matters. The only thing that matters is knowing that you're an immortal spirit within a simulation. You will always exist. When the simulation is through with you, you get ejected because you're an errant in the program. Right? It's like the Matrix movie. What they say is nothing more than a documentary. We are errants within the program because we have woken up within the simulation and we realize that we're living a dream. We're living a lie, and that the dome is real. It's mentioned throughout the Bible, the firmament, right? That we are completely covered in a dome, and NASA is fake. All the exoplanets are fake.
Allegedly.
Right? Allegedly, according to Bashirs. Within the environment, but they do exist outside of this environment, but we are in an enclosed holosphere. They say we're spinning around. The sun is moving, and all the planets are spiraling around it as the thing is going hundreds of thousands of miles an hour through outer space. Yet the constellations are always all the same at the same time of the year. Nothing has moved, right? And that the sun and the moon are within the sphere. It's not millions of miles away. And Jason Bashirs, Beschhears. He sounds, he doesn't have the greatest voice, but the man is a genius.
And he is self-taught.
Yeah, he was in jail for 20 plus years where he studied everything. And
in Texas prison. He's one of my homies, and he's up here in the woodlands. I've been trying to get in touch with him. If you're in touch with him, tell him to reach out to me. I've been trying to.
Not in touch with him, but I'd love to get him out here to do a lecture to prove, because now he says lots of interesting things too. He says, I I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into things that are going to divide people. We need to all come together and realize that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
When you have to pick your side now. You're either of service to others or service to self. And division, they divide and conquer us, and that's how they succeed. And that's why they created all the division and the left and right. The Democrats and Republicans, the black and white. All this stuff to divide us, when their fear is all of us coming together and realizing, hey, we are all light beings from elsewhere that are trapped within this simulation, because we came here to experience it, because we wanted to have a simulated environment where we can go and play and do things that we normally otherwise couldn't do. But it's been hijacked. So the Nag Hammadi scriptures talk about Yaldabaoth, who's this blind, demented imposter deity that's like the Call of Cthulhu being, right? The tentacled creature that has actually created this simulated environment, a cheap copy of what the real high-frequency paradise Earth should be. And we were coming here for an adventure, but instead we got stuck in here and got thrown into this reincarnation cycle over and over and over and over without any escape. And that was what the tunnel of light false matrix simulation is all about, to draw us like moths to a flame. And that this AI that's controlling everything that Jason Bashir talks about too, that he figured out by reading all these ancient texts, all these ancient books, thousands of books this man's read and written, dozens. That the AI in control of everything will create the facsimile or the simulated version of your aunt or your uncle or your husband or wife or grandmother coming for you through the light, saying, come on, come into the light, come on, and drawing you in. And that's the trap. That's like the bug zapper. You forget everything and you get stuck into this recycle loop and get sent right back. Right. And that the key is you turn completely around, according to Bashir's, right? Facing the light. When you vacate the body, turn around 180, look at the universe and say, I choose to return home, wherever home is. And that's where you go. And I honestly think that's pretty legit.
Well, it sounds like my experience.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to the light. I was going into darkness, just this like dark behind me, black.
Yeah.
Never saw a light or anything. No relatives, nothing like that. So I'm here for a reason.
Yes, you are. You're here to spread wisdom.
Yeah. Jason is a brilliant man. I respect him highly because I know, when you go to prison and you have a substantive amount of time to do, you have a choice. Can I go get the college education? Because you can get a master's degree for free in Texas prisons. If you want to get a PhD, anything above that, you have to pay out of your own pocket. But the state and federal government will pay for that education. Wow. Or you can go learn the law, or you can do what Jason did. He decided he wanted to go study a specific topic or topics, and he got entranced, and he is a world-renowned expert on ancient texts, theology, religion. Would you say? I
would. Yeah, the man is and he retains it all. He can recite it, and he goes off on tangents sometimes, but you just listen to his shows. When I travel doing all these conventions, I can't even tell you how many miles I put on my new car over the last year and a half, driving from Connecticut to Jersey to Knoxville to Nashville to Detroit to Knoxville to Austin to Houston to Austin to Oklahoma City to Chicago and back, all within 6 weeks. Doing all these shows, one after the other, lots of hours in the car. And I'd listen to some really important, potent stuff that keeps me awake and keeps my mind going instead of listening to music and make me pass out. But yeah, this stuff's crazy. It's amazing and incredible. And I would love to be able to meet the guy. I'll
try to get a hold of him and hook you guys up. I've been, sending him emails. Hey, Jason, contact me. So you're the one.
He came up with a really fascinating concept. I don't know where he got it from, but he said basically that outside of the simulation, our bodies are jacked into this simulation, our real bodies, right? In the higher spiritual planes of existence, right? Plane because it's a reality, but it's outside of our reality. And that somehow these people that were jacked in were murdered, and their consciousness was trapped in the simulation with no way to go back out, because their bodies were destroyed. And he says that's who the demons are, and they're furious and livid and hate because of what happened to them, and they want a body to go be in a body again, right? And that's why they temporarily possess people. But they, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, because we're told certain things, and that might just be a way to understand them, like allegory, right? But that's an interesting concept, and he has a big beef with. I don't know if I even want to say it. Certain aspects of the religion that is control. I'm all about being spiritual, right? Meaning that we're fields of awareness that are immortal spirits that have come here. Religion controls you, and spirituality sets you free. So I'm a spiritualist, and I believe in God, the creator of all that is, and that's the only being that I owe allegiance to. I think I told you that one time, last time we spoke, when I missed the segment last week. I said, I don't bow before anybody except God, the creator of all that is, right? But check that out. But if you want to experience amazing information, please check out our event, Baron Trump Novels. Let's see what that is. Oh, I didn't get into what I was going to talk about, and that is it's all time travel, right? Future proves past. Nothing can stop what's coming, because they know exactly what's coming, because they're using, and this is where it gets I don't know if I want to get into it. It's so trippy. It's better for him to say it. No, he didn't say it. Jason didn't. Where did I hear this stuff from? Lockwood, that's what that is. Anyhow, we'll save it for next time. Keep everybody on
you're coming back.
Pins and needles. But please check out Defeating the Demonic. Go to darksiege.com, grab a live stream ticket, and be part of this 13-hour epic event. I have books. My books are available on my website as well. But there's going to be, if you can make it out here in person and meet these amazing people and be part of this experience, you're going to be blown away. So that's
we need to get you on the road for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll hook you up with. I got a guy down here he's done a lot of the Patriot tours. He's done events up to 90,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah,
he used
to work for Live Nation as a runner. Yeah, so we worked in the same industry, know all the same people, but we worked here at different times. I was in prison when he was main runner for Live Nation.
Wow. So, it doesn't take much. All it is a venue with a screen and a PA system and Sprinter van and hotels and, food, and going from one place to the next to put on this info to share it with people, because the most important thing is to learn how to stand up for yourself and understand that you have immense power when combining that with the power of the creator that you're invoking and evoking, and the archangels, to protect yourself against darkness and evil, and how to identify it, and how to identify how these things work their way into our lives to protect your families. That's the main goal. It's not to terrify you, but it's to show you this is real, to give you examples, but to say, look, you have to choose sides. You're either working for the light or you're working for the darkness, and I choose the light.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Man, wow. Anything else you want to talk about? You want to add, or you want to keep this at a nice little 2 hour?
I haven't done. Yeah, let's quit it too. I haven't done much at all with music since I left Austin, and I miss it. I miss being up on stage, and I always say I'm the creative force behind that band. I named the band Shadow Ministry because you're going into these metal clubs, and my lyrics are about light, right, and ascension, and about being beacons of light, overcoming the darkness. And that's not what you expect to hear from a metal band, but we're progressive metal. And I did all my costumes. I came out in these, made a costume in a song I named called Crucible, where I would dress up in these flowing black robes with a lit lantern during the fog cannons, and I'd come out on stage in my thing. And I created a persona where I was this pre-Christian. I was an adept in a pre-Christian Gnostic mystical order, and I was beguiled by spirits to obtain this tome of power from the master's secret chamber that he was keeping from us, because the spirits wanted that information, and to sow distrust and discord between the order and the teacher. And then he realizes his mistake, and he has to right the wrongs and understand that love is the answer and light overcomes the darkness. And then I peel off the robes, and I come into my own body, my own persona, and finish the song off. But I had a great time doing that type of stuff, going up there and putting on the Osiris costume. We had a song called Asp. And, I just never felt supported in that band. I felt like it was always an antagonistic type of situation where I was expected to be. I had no professional musical training, right? No ear training, hardly any vocal training. It was all natural talent, and I have an amazing range. And, I was just constantly being badgered all the time, and it's just like, guys, this is no fun, I could sing a song in many different keys and it still sounds good, right? And it still fits, but I'm expected to sing it exactly the way. And I did take a vocal coach lesson in Austin, and the coach gave me these amazing quotes, and he said, he was blown away. And I made a graphic about that. And I said, you would think you'd want to promote that graphic, talking about my range and my natural ability and so forth, for the rest of the band to say, look at how, what a great review this professional vocal coach who does speech pathology even, and how great that was. And they didn't want to put it up there because what does it do for them? Nothing. Right. That type of thing just kept driving me crazy. I couldn't hear myself. The bass player's playing so loud all the time. And then asking me, could you hear yourself? I was like, no, I couldn't hear myself, even with in ears, Yep. So it's just constant BS. Oh, you don't have any tattoos. You don't have long hair. You don't have a beard or facial hair. It's like, I don't need to do that stuff. I already have an amazing epic voice that hardly anybody in Austin has, and I just didn't tolerate this stuff. And I just said, look, it's not working out. So if we had a record deal, which doesn't happen anymore, and we're making good money to tolerate each other on stage and so forth, or to be on tour, then it would be fun in a way. But then I'd still be exhausted at the end of the night, still traveling with a bunch of people that I don't like, just because they're just not reasonable. I'm bashing on them. But it hurts me because I was having dreams. I was having nightmares, like nightmares and dreams.
They're on a different frequency.
Exactly.
They're stuck on the rock and roll, level, and they're always in that environment, surrounded by those same people. So they're going to attract and adopt all that. So when they're with somebody that's a higher spiritual being, of course, it's like oil and water.
Yeah, and they couldn't grasp a lot of what I was saying. Some of it they could, but it's like it's making like I'm the one that has to feel badly that you're unable to grasp what I'm talking about. Like I'm the one that's insane, And what I did made our band known. The vocals, the costume changes, the themes, the presence being 6'7" and everything. And I made that band. I named it, and they kept the name, and they kept a lot of my song title names. And I said, you're not using my vocals. You're not using my lyrics. It's my IP, So they're completely working around that. And they couldn't find anybody that can do anything near what I could do. So they went with somebody who's just a screamer.
Yeah.
And I've never been into that. And they're a dime a dozen. How many of those people are out there, that drives me insane. But anyway, I'd have nightmares and dreams where I'm actually interacting with some of them and trying to talk common sense, or have issues or be there at a show. Something happens, and it definitely is still something that I haven't let go of. Now, how wonderful would it be to find a bunch of musicians who understand what I'm presenting and believe in me and support me and actually encourage me instead of discourage me and fight me every step of the way, where it went from the bass player and I were the co-founders of the original version of the band.
Right.
He and I came together, let's recreate our band. And then I said, let's recreate Shadow Ministry, because the first album we wrote, it was all a concept album that I wrote. I didn't write the music. I wrote all the vocals and all the themes, right, behind the songs that all bled together, and they're really amazing. And, you know, I think they think that they made the right choice, but I don't think so. Anyhow.
They made a choice, and
Yeah.
that's what they did. They found somebody that they can relate with on a spiritual level, and so be it. I think there's bigger and better things definitely for you in the future.
Oh,
and
definitely.
What you're doing, definitely what you're doing now, and the Saturday event that you're doing, we need to cover that. We need to do that live. So make that happen for us.
Yeah, I hired a film crew last year, professional crew. They do a lot of corporate stuff. This year is going to be 3 times as expensive because it's 3 times as long. But I got great video footage last year, right? And we live streamed it. So to have them come and do, I can maybe have somebody else do a recording of it at least on Saturday, and then broadcast that or do something. I don't know. It all adds up, and the theater is amazing. It's beautiful, and they're handling all the ticket sales and the advertising. But I have connections. I have connections with a friend of mine, Nick, who wants to partner with me to do things going forward. Has all the connections with all the local media, so he actually sent stuff out for a press release today. So hopefully that really helps out and generates interest. But I hope your audience finds what I said interesting about that. And like Bill Bean says, he says, it's, I can't even tell you what he would say, but it's about knowledge, and knowledge perceived is knowledge achieved, and he's good, man. He's good.
That's it.
It's a lot of work, but it's all going to happen. It went through completely flawlessly last time, and it was really great. So this year is going to be triple in size, scope, and scale. And, hopefully that'll be a good signal. And like I said, I lift it all up to the God. I lift it all up to the Creator. I say, if this is meant to be, then please, see this through and to supercharge it and make sure it reaches the people that need to hear it, because that's the most important thing. And like Bishop James Long said, he said, he doesn't have to prove demons exist because he helps the families that know that they do, and absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, as Dr. Stephen Greer said about the Disclosure Project. Count your blessings if you've never had an experience. Here's the sick part about it, is that there are people actually wanting these experiences. They're actually seeking demonic interaction without any clue what they're dealing with and what they're going to have to, the ramifications of what they're doing, and how these men that I'm bringing in, for example, and others, are the ones that have to come to the rescue and undo all the lunacy that these people have done. And they're, it needs to end. These people just need to realize this force exists, and they hate you with every fiber of their existence. I had a gal come up to my table 3-4 conventions ago, black contacts, fairy ears, saying, "Oh, I see you don't like demons." And I said, my experience has been wonderful. And then she's sitting across my table, and she started talking to me about it. I said, "Come sit to the side of my table. Can I record what you're saying?" She's like, "Yeah." Right. And she reached rock bottom, and Christ wasn't answering her, and she didn't feel any connection, but she made a connection with a demon. Right. And she mentions the name, and I said, "Please don't recite the name near me." And she made a blood pact with it. Wrote out this agreement because she lost her job. Right. And instantly he came to help her by her boyfriend, who was a military guy, got involved in special forces and called her immediately. Says, "Honey, you'll never have to work again. I just landed this great gig as a spec ops guy, and we'll be set from here on in." And it was the demon that did it for her. And I said, "Well, what happens when your demon turns against you?" "Oh, he can't, because I wrote in there, he can't harm anybody that I love, and he can't harm me." And I said, Huh. They don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
And like Bishop Cloud said, I just swore, Archbishop Cloud says, picture what they see for a moment. It's the lioness in the Serengeti that's just peeking over the top tips of the grass, looking at the wildebeest, picking out the sick one or the old one or the injured one, the easy pickings. They look at us like we're prey animals because that's what they see us as. The demonic, right? They operate outside of human perception. They have powers that you can't believe. They operate outside of our physics, right? And they want to seek to destroy you. Kill, rob, and destroy is their goal. And that's the role of the devil, you know. And it's a force that is real, right? Whether the devil's real or Satan is real, this force exists. It exists in our reality and outside of our reality. And they come in here to seek to destroy people and to ruin friendships and ruin families and destroy everybody because they get off on it.
Yep, absolutely.
Seething hatred. Anyway, it's crazy. But you'll learn so much if you take part in the seminar in one way or another. And if you can't make it, if you want to donate, I think there's a donate section in there with the event, with the live stream ticket option. Whatever. I'd love to hear from people. I hope my politics stuff didn't upset anybody, but you know, we are in a strange situation. You know, we can all admit that, and everybody wants to live in a peaceful world where everybody gets along and we love each other and we have everything that we all need, you know, to live happy lives, and you know, that's all we can ask for.
Right. Yeah. My statement is the crazy went insane.
Yeah. Lunacy.
Yeah.
It's the madhouse. And honestly, escaping the matrix or the simulacrum, as Jason Bashir calls it, is a release from the madhouse. You know.
What about you doing you and Jason going
Love
on
to.
Love to.
I'd love to. I'd love to talk to him about, you know, my understanding. I've experienced this stuff. You know, he has a certain take. He hasn't had experience. He said he did have one experience in jail cell where this force like ripped through his room or somebody's cell, and completely ransacked it and attacked this person. And then it just whisked right out and disappeared. And he witnessed it. He saw it. And the guy was just absolutely terrified out of his mind. So there was a demonic presence in that cell that he summoned in there somehow, and then it left, right? He hasn't had any other experiences, but I have. And I understand these things. But he has a level of understanding regarding his experiences and what he studied. And I think it'd be the perfect union, honestly, to come together and at least have a conversation about it. Next time I'm in Texas, I should try to figure out, maybe you and I can figure out a way to go down and meet him and take him out to lunch or something like that.
I'll tell you what, after we get off this, I'll look him up in my way of looking people up.
Yeah.
And see if I can get his address and his contact information and see what we can do about hooking this up. Because, I think you two would be just dynamite on stage together because he's got the knowledge, the research, the breadth of, you know, people are sending this guy antique sets of historical books for free because of his knowledge and his research and his dedication to this issue to bring all this out to the front to everybody. Definitely kudos to him. Kudos to you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I know you want to stop 2 hours. We've run just a couple minutes over, but no big deal. So again, as we close, how can people contact you? And what does that look like?
So my main website, I'm putting everything on, is darksiege.com. It's the name of my book, DARKSIEGE.com. The main, you know, landing page, you'll get info about the Defeating the Demonic event, my books, the graphic novel, some different videos that were made through Mysterious World TV, all my newspaper articles that I wrote while I was working at Sacred Heart University and at Eastern about my work with the Warrens, all kinds of stuff. And anybody could email me at McLeod Metaphysics, MCLEOD Metaphysics at protonmail.com. I love Proton Mail. I use that. There's also Dark Siege Book at gmail.com, which is easier for people to remember. I just don't check it that often. I'm really, really crazy busy about, I have Connecticut Horror Fest coming up the third weekend of September, which is a huge event. And then I have the Warrens, Seekers of the Supernatural Paracon in Gettysburg. I'm actually a guest speaker there this year. Those are two huge events. So I have like 700 books on the way, new banners, new tablecloths, all kinds of stuff to really up the game a bit. And I bought all kinds of postcards for the demonic event to hand out to people who buy my books and at the events, just to help them understand that this is epic, man. That nobody's done anything like it, and that's why I think it's just going to be so amazing. And especially if we're able to take it on the road and, at least in the US. But yeah, darksiege.com. Look me up. I'm all over YouTube, all over, just Google me and stuff. I have all kinds of hundreds of podcasts I've done. Thousands and thousands of photos from the different events I've done and so forth. And, I've been on Coast to Coast 3 times. Last time I think was in April with George Norrie. Haven't been on any major para shows yet, but the screenplay is now being written for Dark Siege. There's a whole big deal about that. I can't really go into details. And, the time is right for all this stuff to really make headlines. So it's the key to understand is that most of the most severe cases, like this case, Dark Siege, and many, many others, you'll never hear about. The families want no recognition. They don't want these things to come back after them again, as they did in this case, Dark Siege. They came after them again, a second time, which is always 7 times worse. Yep. That's why there's a second volume, and they were terrified of a three-peat. So they never wanted to talk about it. But after so many years, they said, you have to warn people against making the same mistakes that we did. And, to teach people. So I did something completely epic. They didn't discuss this yet. I recreated my case, Dark Siege, A Connecticut Family's Nightmare, using my bachelor's in English creative writing in a cinematic horror fiction format, like you're reading a Stephen King book. So you're able to see everything that happens, and you feel like you're right there standing alongside everybody, from the kids to the teens, to the parents, to the clergy, to the investigators, the friends, all that stuff. And then I include a chapter by chapter analysis at the end, which is completely unique, where I talk about my early experiences working with the Warrens, how that prepared me to deal with this, but then what the family did wrong every step of the way. So I explain all the activity in each chapter according to my understanding of the science and spirituality behind the paranormal, sympathetic vibratory physics and quantum physics, universal laws of intention, attraction, vibration, balance, right? All those things. What I understand about them. So you understand where I'm coming from and how I dealt with what I dealt with, and then how to protect yourself, how to raise your vibration, how to pray for protection from Archangel Michael more effectively, how to use high church incense or sage and things like that to raise the vibration of your living spaces, and so much more. And it's been a blockbuster. So it's been really great. And I have 430 reviews on Amazon, almost perfect 5 stars, and you'll love it. So Dark Siege, A Connecticut Family's Nightmare. I have the graphic novel in production, which is dynamite. I have making examples of that on my website now. Outstanding artist, friend of mine in Australia, named Corinne. And she's been a godsend for me as far as helping me build all my graphics and so forth. But it's a lot of work being a one-man show. And she's been really, really, really great and helpful to help me do all this and bring more versions of the same story to public awareness. I also recorded the book in the audio as an audiobook in my own voice. It's on audible.com, darksiege.com. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It was really cool to do all the different voices and everything, and never ends. I have new books in the works. I'm combining both books into one to do a deluxe version at some point. I'm almost completely done editing that. And but the Defeating the Demonic event is just taking priority now that it's crunch time, because it's already into September.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to promote it. And if you think anybody might benefit from the material, just please forward on the graphic that's listed here, or send them to my Dark Siege page, because you never know. People might be experiencing darkness, and they don't tell anybody, and they'll benefit from understanding the content that we provide through the seminar. Absolutely. But I want to thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, no, thank you. Let me ask you one quick question as I close. Would you be interested in having a discussion with a quantum physicist?
Sure.
Okay. Because I got one that's
way
out there.
Sounds great.
Merlin the Magician.
I'm not a quantum physicist, but I talk about my simple understandings about it, that nothing is truly physical, that, we're waveforms and particles simultaneously because we're immortal spirits in a computer simulation.
I just want to be the fly on the wall and listen to that conversation.
I would love to hear that. Yeah.
Too. Okay. I'll set that up with Merlin. I'll get that rolling too.
All right.
So, yeah, I'm just now getting back doing the show. Last week was kind of disruptive. I'm dealing with a guru who's a scammer, and trying to get him put behind bars. I'm going to get him put behind bars. There's no doubt about that. But I didn't want that to intrude on the show. Again, thank you for being here. I will have you back very, very, very soon. Definitely before you do your October show. Try to get you in a couple weeks, if not sooner.
Okay.
Is that amenable to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Wednesdays are good.
Wednesdays are good?
Yeah.
Okay. We might make that a static thing. Do you every 2 weeks or something?
Monday, Tuesday is good. Any day is really good, but it all depends,
Okay.
what I'm doing. Weekends, I tend to do shows and things like that, but especially, this next couple months, but we'll figure it out. We'll communicate as we do. But thanks, everybody. No, I have nothing else to really say. Just remember that, good always overpowers darkness, and you are, the living temple of the Christ consciousness, the Holy Spirit, the greatest power in the universe, and that there's nothing more powerful than that. When you call upon that for protection, you might not hear an answer instantly and so forth, but if you know that this force is real and that you are part of it and never separate, then who can defeat you in that regard? And that's why we call it defeating the demonic, because they always lose. In the end, they lose. So be on the right side.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jason, for being here. We'll have you on in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
And I'll be with you in a minute backstage. Let me close out the show. There you go, folks. This is what I tell you, okay? I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty intelligent, but I love to talk to people who are more intelligent and smarter than I am, because I learn from them. Everything that comes out of their mouth, I'm learning. I'm absorbing. I'm curious. I want to know more. And I try to develop friends like this. Some of them are long distance. We don't communicate daily or weekly or monthly, but we still are friends. We're still on that level. Jason really doesn't know this. I adore Jason. I think he's just one badass dude who's, has a life's mission, know what his mission's all about, and he's able to present this to you and assimilate other people that are around him that are more powerful than he is. And, there's only one thing that can create that, and that would be our divine. So when I tell you folks that, I live this crazy, insane, divine life every day, I don't plan anything. It just kind of happens, thrown in my lap, and I deal with it. So Jason will be back. I'll try to get Jason Brashears of archaics.com. He's on YouTube, mainly on YouTube. So go check him out over there. If you're going to have a higher knowledge and acceptance of what he's trying to tell you, because he'll talk right over your head like that if you're not paying attention. So dig into that. I will have Jason back on quickly, and we'll do some more shows, and we'll talk about other topics. We just barely grazed over the Anna von Reitz thing. We'll talk about that at length, our experience with that, his further experience with that. So look forward to having Jason on again, and we will talk about more things. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. You can leave a comment below. If any of you out there in the audience know Jason Brashears, please send him this video or my information and tell him that Jason and myself are trying to get in contact with him. If you don't know, I'm in Northwest Houston. Jason is in North Houston in the Woodlands. So I know kind of where he lives. I'll try to find his information on my own, but if somebody's out there, please help us out, get this rolling. If you know any advertisers or sponsors that would like to be involved with Jason's event to produce it nationwide, I don't know how many cities that we could possibly do, 5, 10, 20, 25, 30. That all depends, but we'll try to get that together. This is an important thing, especially at this current environment of the world, what we're going through, especially here in the United States. I'm trying to do everything that I can to help the country, to help the world, to help humanity. And that's just where my life leads me. It's where I'm going. I want to thank you all for being here. You can always reach me at the Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. I am the Fearless Floyd Show across every social media platform. Mainly I hang out over on Telegram. So if you want to contact me, that's the easiest and best way. If you need something, that's the easiest and best way, because I can send 4 gigs of information to you immediately, especially with videos or in-depth material. Again, I want to thank my guest, Jason, for being here. I want to thank Buffy for coming over here, briefly being my moderator, admin. And we'll have Jason back very soon. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a great weekend. Tomorrow is Thursday. I believe I have Corey booked. I'm going to rebroadcast the show that I did last Thursday with him on Rumble. So that's what's going to be up for tomorrow. I may do something live around that before or after. So stay tuned, and look forward to seeing you guys there. If you're coming to save the world, man, we're waiting on you. So hurry up. If you're going to give us the RV, pull that trigger, hit that button, whatever you need to do. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Y'all have a great week.